everybody and welcome back to the wine challenge. We're on to week 10 now. We're in double figures, so getting quite exciting. We've gone through quite a lot and we've got quite a lot left to go. Sadly, I'm back indoors this week because although it looks not too bad out there, it is absolutely freezing, but we've got a right treat to cheer me up. So this week's wine, we have the Gravel and Loan Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. Now, I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc pretty much put New Zealand on the map for wine. Now, New Zealand is a new world winemaking country, and kind of what that means is you've got the old world where wine traditions were created, so a lot of that is in Europe. So you've got places like France and Italy and Spain, etc. And then you've got the new world, which is countries and winemakers who've been influenced by the old world countries to create wine. So that includes places such as the Americas, you've got South Africa, China's even doing it now. And of course, you've got New Zealand as well. So this particular wine is coming from Marlborough, a place in New Zealand which is extremely well known for its Sauvignon Blanc. So I'm really excited to crack it open and have a drink. I have had a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc before. I've not had this particular bottle. I've been advised that it's a particularly nice one. So yeah, let's get started. So I've had this one chilling in the fridge for roughly half an hour to an hour, just to kind of chill it down a little bit, as is recommended for most whites. So I'm going to start by opening up the bottle and I'm going to pour myself a measure. Now instantly we're going to the first S of the 5 S's. I can see that it's very pale in colour. There isn't much colour to this at all. It's very transparent. It's got a very, very pale lemony kind of tinge to it. Yeah, very pale wine. So S number 2 is sniff. So I'm going to give this a quick, ooh, yeah. So instantly you're getting aromas coming through on the nose. It kind of jumps out the glass. It's quite a pronounced smelling wine. It smells quite fresh, maybe a little bit fruity, a little bit floral. It smells delicious. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a swirl, see if that releases a little bit more of the aromas, because as I say, it's been chilling, so sometimes that means that the aromas don't rise to the surface straight away. I'm actually going to put my hand over the top on this one, see if I can trap a little bit more in and sniff again. I'm definitely getting more citrus fruits, perhaps a very light, herbaceously kind of floral note, but not much. And definitely a bit of kind of tropical that's coming through there as well. So I'm thinking more along the lines of, you know, maybe a bit of passion fruit or pineapple or something. It smells delicious. And last but not least, of course, we have the sip. So S number 5, cheers. Already so good. I'm just going to let it coat my mouth. So it's relatively high in acidity, but it's really punchy with the fruits. So I'm definitely getting a lot of passion fruit, a lot of kind of tropical flavour. There's some citrusiness to it, maybe a bit of lemon and lime, more so than, you know, oranges. I'm not tasting the kind of herbaceousness as much as I was smelling it. A lot of the time with wines that have floral notes, it's a lot easier to smell them than it is necessarily to be able to taste them on the palate. It's so refreshing though. And though it's a dry white wine, it has fruitiness to it, that sweet fruit, kind of soft tropical fruit flavour, which is interesting because a lot of people come in and they will ask for a sweet wine and they don't actually want a sweet wine, they want a fruity wine. And it's trying to explain the difference between the two. You're not looking necessarily for sweetness or residual sugar in the wine from, you know, the grapes or any sugar that may have been added, you know, during the process. You might be looking more for a wine which has fruity flavours but it's actually dry. Two very, very different things, but easily mixed up when you're talking to somebody or searching for a bottle. Yeah, jam-packed with fruit flavours. It's almost got a slight, and you know, maybe I'm leading the witness here a little bit because I have had a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc before, but it does have that kind of almost slightly signature, almost gooseberry flavour to it as well. Let me know if you can taste that. But this is a particularly good example for a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. It is lovely. It really is an excellent quality. It's a young wine, it's made to be drunk fresh, and it is very refreshing. And you really get those fruit flavours kind of jam-packed in there. It's a very, very typical example of what I would think in my head as to what a Sauvignon Blanc would be. So I'm going to grab the tasting notes just to compare the two together based off of what I've been seeing and smelling as well. So the tasting notes, they say this is a New Zealand white wine from the Wairau Valley. I do apologise if I am incorrect in my pronunciation there. In Marlborough, with classic aromas of gooseberry. Again, that's very typical for a Sauvignon Blanc, so I don't know whether that was definitely what I was tasting or if I just kind of already knew that that's what I would be tasting. Fresh herbs and melon undertones. Oh, the melon's quite an interesting one. Yeah, I can kind of understand where they're getting melon from. Yeah, I could understand melon. I could get melon. The palate brings tropical passion fruit, subtle citrus, refreshing acidity and length with a finish of lime. I mean, that's pretty bob on. It's smack on really for a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and it really, really describes this particular one very, very well. It's a really nice quality New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. What's quite interesting here is they mention length. So when we're talking about length in wine, it's the amount of time that all the good flavours, all the good stuff, flavours you actually want in your mouth, actually stays in your mouth after you've, swallowed the wine or spat it out if you're doing a tasting. Not that I would ever spit out a glass of wine. So they're saying this one has quite a good length to it. So once you've swallowed, you still get those lovely flavours kind of coating your mouth for a little bit longer after you've swallowed. Yeah, I think that's a very, very accurate description. I think it's very fair to say all of those things. And I'm really excited now to jump onto the part where we try a few little foods just to see what kind of pairs with it based off of various recommendations and research that I've done. So this week we have a couple of different things on this plate. So the main thing is I've got some goat's cheese. I was looking for a cheese to pair with a Sauvignon Blanc because goat's cheese is generally quite sort of, jam-packed full of flavour, and it can be quite strong. It can also be slightly milder and creamier. You need a wine which is going to be quite versatile with that, something that's got good acidity if it's a creamier one, something that has a load of flavour in it to match up with the flavour in the cheese. So I think we've done a really good job pairing goat's cheese with this wine. So I'm going to give that a little go first. God, this goat's cheese sticking to my finger. It's going to be spreadable on these things. We do an excellent goat's cheese in our bar. It's called the chèvre log. I think chèvre means goat in French. I'm assuming so. So I've got my goat's cheese, I've got my wine. Cheers. That is a really nice pairing. Because it's such a strong flavoured cheese, you need something which has really, punchy, packed flavours to kind of balance it out. And you've got the proper sweet, juicy, tropical fruits. I think if you were going for a cheese that was a little bit too mild with this wine, you wouldn't really bring out the best in both of them. You'd sort of bring out a lot of brilliant flavours in the wine. The cheese might get a little bit lost alongside it. But you've got a powerful cheese, a powerful wine. Really, really good combination. Also, because goat's cheese has, decent salt content in it, the salt in the cheese alters your perception of the acidity in the wine. So because this wine is quite high acidity, the saltiness kind of changes the way that your mouth can taste the acidity, and it takes that away a little bit, and you get a lot of the fruits kind of coming through. It almost makes it taste fruitier. It's a really interesting thing to play with. It's why cheeses and charcuterie and anything that's particularly salty works so well with wine. Now, when you're looking into actual dishes to put with a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, you've got all the classics for white wine, things like fish and chicken and things that are a little bit lighter or creamier, especially creaminess. That creaminess will be really cut through by the acidity of the wine, and it would work really, really well. However, I wanted to go down a different route to the other ones that we've done, and something which does work particularly well with Sauvignon Blanc because it does have, on the nose especially, it has that slight kind of herbal aroma to it. You can pair it with green vegetables, more herbal kind of dishes, but especially with things like pesto. So naturally, it's quick and easy to make. I thought I'd whip myself up a bit of pesto pasta, because who doesn't love a little bit of pasta? And I'm going to give it a go now. So cheers. Now again, because pesto has almost a slight saltiness to it, it does a similar thing to the cheese, but not quite to the same level. But you've got all the herbs coming through, and that does tie in quite nicely and pair quite well with the slight herbaceousness that you get in the wine. it is a really nice combination. Certainly something that I can imagine whipping up dead easy. You know, great thing about pesto pasta is you can have it cold, you know, for lunch. Take it on a picnic on a warm day with a glass of this wine. It'd be lovely, especially out in the park. Are you allowed to drink in the park? I'm not condoning drinking in parks, but it would be nice in a park. I mean, I don't think that my thoughts or opinions on New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc have changed throughout this experience. I've always liked New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. It's something I've had before. It's something I would quite frequently order myself in a restaurant, even before I started to work in wine or learn a little bit more about wine, because it's something that I had tried and tested and really enjoyed. You get amazing fruit flavours coming through. It's got good acidity, so it works very, very well with food. And it's a wine that really packs a punch and has loads of flavour in it. But let me know what you think. Same as usual, it's really great to hear what you've been up to, see what you've been doing. We've had some amazing responses. And it's quite interesting to watch, you know, who likes what wines and who doesn't like others, because there is a real spectrum of the people who are joining in. Some of you are loving some and hating others, and completely the opposite for other people. Comment on the social media, let us know when you pop in to pick up your bottles, however you want to do it. It's really great for us to see. Next week, we are going to be trying a French Gamay from the Beaujolais region. So that's a nice light-bodied red, something that should be quite easy drinking. And we should get some really interesting fruit flavours coming through on that one as well. But until then, enjoy drinking the rest of the bottle, and I will see you next week. Stay safe. Cheers.